Chapter 2. Danny, my mom yelled and ran out of the house, engulfing me in a bear hug. I almost fell from the impact. I laughed when she smothered my face with kisses and tears streamed down her face. Her perfume filled my nose and I instantly relaxed. I sighed in contentment. I knew for sure my mother would never betray me. She would never give up on me. This is the first time I smiled in days. I felt so safe in her arms. You've grown so much. I missed you. Mom, you saw me 2 weeks ago. I chuckled and sighed again. I miss you too, I said seriously. My dad cleared his throat and I scowled. What did he want this time? I turned around and glared at my dad, but he just smiled at me. I narrowed my eyes at him and he just turned to smile at my mother. Ella, you look great as always, my father greeted. It was true. My mother looked gorgeous. She's 42 and she looked like she was still in her early 30s. Her long straight, dark brown hair was pulled into a tight ponytail and she wore a black dress that hugged her body nicely. Her high cheekbones complemented her black eyes and her red lipstick made her look professional, yet lovely. I looked just like her, except my hair was slightly curled at the bottom making it look like I've curling iron and my eyes were green, just like my father's own. I would be lying if I said I wasn't good looking. It ran in my blood and most of my family members were models. Thank you, George. I thought a meeting in an hour, she groaned and looked at her watch. I hate to leave Annie because she just arrived, but duty calls. She looked at me apologetically. I'm sorry. I was hoping I wasn't going to be busy today. I hope you don't mind because it's going to be held in the house. I looked over at the mansion my mom called. It was beautiful, of course. She was filthy rich, but she didn't take it for granted. It was 2 stories high. Inside, there was 12 bedrooms, 10 bathrooms, 1 huge kitchen, a dining room, a living area, a workout area, my mother's workshop, a basement and an attic and finally a huge meeting room for when she has meetings for her job. I shook my head and smiled at my mom. Mom, this is your house. Stop freaking out. I understand. She smiled sweetly at me. I saw Felly, one of my mother's maids, coming outside and I ran up to her, hugging her. She was like my aunt. She had short curly gray hair and she was short and stubby. She had a huge smile on her face that brightened up her whole face. Aunt Felly, how you doing? Oh, I'm doing fine. No need to worry about me, sweetheart. How you doing? She smiled, trying to smooth out her hair. By the way, I made your favorite southern pot pie to make you feel better. I'm alright. Could be doing better. Oh, I can't wait to eat that. My mouth watered at the thought of her famous pot pie. She chuckled at my expression. Felly, it's good to see you again, my dad said enthusiastically, interrupting my conversation once again. He looked at me with a serious look on his face. Danny, can we talk? There's nothing to talk about, I simply said, shrugging. Mom, I'll see you inside. My mother looked concerned. Her hands were knotted together in front of her. She started twiddling her thumbs and she bit her lip. She did that often when she was deep in thought or when she was nervous. I started stalking off towards the main entrance of the house, while Felly followed me, rubbing my back soothingly. Daniela Jean W. Rhodes Saunders. I froze in place when he said my whole name. My back was still facing him and I tensed up. Felly noticed and she stepped away from me. She knew that when I was tense, I was mad. And it isn't pretty when I'm mad, trust me. I expected you to understand. You're not a child anymore, Daniela. My father's voice sounded angry. He was getting tired and impatient with me, which pissed me off some more. I do understand. You love Sandra more than me. I spat out and walked into the house without looking back. I was on the verge of crying again. How much tears can a girl hold? I was just one person and I certainly couldn't handle this crap anymore. I was only 17 and I shouldn't be worrying about these things. I wished I was normal. I wish that my parents were still married, that my dad took care of his little girl, and that my boyfriend loved me unconditionally. But I wasn't normal. I was Daniela Saunders. I was far from normal. Half an hour later, my dad finally left. He tried to say goodbye, but I ignored him. My mom left me with some Ben Jerry's strawberry ice cream before going to her meeting. I wish my brother were here. He would have been comforting me and he would have told my dad to leave me the hell alone. He would have protected me. He would have tickled me until I started smiling again. My brother Darren was 2 years older than me and right now, he was at college all the way in Washington. I missed him terribly. He was working on getting a degree as a mechanic. My father wanted him to become a star baseball player, but Darren didn't listen to him. It was his life after all. That's how I learned to stand up to my father. Darren was my inspiration. His voice popped into my mind. Hold your head up high and smile. Stand up tall and remain strong. You are strong. You know why I would smile at him knowing what he would say next. Because I'm your brother. We would laugh and he would tickle me until I was almost out of breath. It was getting dark already and I could see the stars in the sky began to appear. I was sitting in my huge bedroom, looking out the window to the backyard. The only thing I didn't like about this place was the forest that was a few feet away from my house. It was strange and creepy. It looked like one of those forests in those scary movies they tell you not to go into. The fog surrounded the trees mysteriously and I shivered at the thought of walking into the forest and what could happen if I did. Just when I thought that, I saw something black zipping through trees. What the hell was that? I started to panic. Was it a dog? Dogs certainly weren't as big as that. Maybe it was a bear. But bears didn't move that fast, a little voice in my head said. Goosebumps rose all over my body and my heart started going in overdrive. I closed my eyes and shook my head and looked back at the forest. There was nothing. It just looked creepy as usual. Maybe I was hallucinating, I was tired after all.